Hello, basement dwellers and scrufftards. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we're gonna be talking briefly about Kursk, and we're gonna take a look at a successful motorcycle assault charge of the Light Brigade, modern cavalry being used, what it appears as, quite effectively. And we will also be talking about the town of Bahatyr, that seems to be a fortress that Russia is struggling with. And here we have Andrew Perpetua's map. Here we have Kursk and Belgorod, and as you can see, here we have the indication of the three approaches Ukraine has chosen to push into Glushkovo County. So we have an attack at Tetkino, the attempt to come up to the east of Tetkino, and then this assault right here south of Veseloye at that initial breach point where Ukraine assaulted into Glushkovo County last year. So confirmed now by multiple sources, these are the three main attack vectors. Is it a raid, an invasion? I got another video talking about this, going into all of this in a bit more detail. And that would be this video. I made this video late last night, so I'll leave a link down below, but it's the most recent before this video. It should be easy to find. I go into a bit more detail what Ukraine might be after in this area in Glushkovo, but it's leaning towards a raid, but it has potential to be something bigger. We'll see how it plays out, but I mean, there are Russians in the way. Ukraine may not be able to push in the way they want, but it's interesting. And kind of interesting as well is in the area we're talking about here, you find these vehicles that just the other day actually won a big NATO tournament, coming out on top as the best infantry fighting vehicle in all of NATO, the Swedish CV90. And Ukraine is using an upgraded version from the CV90 used in those competitions. So Ukraine has a CV90 that is more advanced than the best infantry fighting vehicle in NATO. Think about that for a moment. And these babies, they were last reported located just outside of where we're now seeing Ukraine pushing in to Kursk once more. Interesting stuff. Anyway, onward to the maps. So yeah, check that one out. But things are happening elsewhere along the front line. Interesting stuff. Take a look at this down at the north of Gornal. Massive Ukrainian airstrikes and drone attacks against Russian positions. Oleshnya is still holding. We got some going back here. Let's see here. We can see some Ukrainian flags in the area. We can also see Russia shelling Ukrainian positions north of this second incursion here into the Belgorod region. So Ukraine is still holding territory. Pokrovsk is still contested. Demidovka is under Russian control. But Ukraine is still holding on to territory, being a proper nuisance to the Russians. And, well, they're tying up forces in the area, essentially. Moving down south, let's take a look. Not much happening up here. This is where Ukraine managed to push Russians back out of Buzlavka and the forest. They're pushing north into Sarajove towards Krylyakivka. We'll see if they can push northward here in town. Maybe link up with friendly forces up here. Going south, Russia is having some successes here. This is where they had a big push a couple of days back. Take a look. They pushed up here, supported by a lot of artillery, and then Ukraine, for whatever reason, decided to pull out of Novolyubivka. Take a look what happens. Boom. Right? And then Russia has made some additional gains. After that, we can see here Russia pushing out towards Torsk and stuff like this. This is where I need to highlight this. This is where this line here is where Russia tried to push in 2023 and utterly failed. And only now, in 2025, when they moved slightly north, that they managed to achieve all of this. They pushed for ages towards Terni, but you had the 21st Mechanized here with the very capable CV-90 infantry fighting vehicles defending Terni. Russia couldn't push past Terni, so the CV-90s were later moved up to Kursk. And so ever since, they are now being able to advance through the area. Same thing up here. Russia tried for a year and a half to move from Svatove to Borova, failed, moved slightly north, came in through Peshane and a valley here and reached the Oskil River. So yeah, they moved everything north, and that sorted things out for the Russians, unfortunately. And here we have lots of things going on in Toretsk. You can see here Russia's coming up this way north towards the railroad line to surround Dilivka and Dachne, pushing out the river here to isolate Leonidivka and Novospache. That has worked ever since they reached the river, and they're now pushing up this way. So the initial stages of this push failed when they tried to take Nelipivka, the small town. Remember that big push? That was meant to isolate this part of the battlefield. That failed, but the following assault seems to have effect when they're moving out, contesting the territory, and that allows Russia to move up through Leonidivka and further on. And here we have, between Pokrovsk, Mironard and Toretsk, this big motorcycle assault the other day, going back. You can see how Russia there in Tarasivka, let's look what happens. They assault Ukrainian positions, and this is probably what happens. They suppress Ukrainian positions and then do a lightning raid. Take a look. Boom, straight through with motorcycles. Blitzkrieg tactics. This is nothing strange. You suppress a section of the front line with no intent of really holding. You just want the enemy in that location to duck into cover so you can move past with the fast-moving forces, usually mechanized infantry fighting vehicles. But in this case, the Russians relied on fast-moving motorcycles, a cavalry raid or charge straight through to assault rearward positions in the Ukrainian line that weren't prepared. And I was talking about this on the 1st of March. What they do, if they take this town, then they isolate Novopoltavka. Ukraine can't push down this road, and having pushed up here already, they isolate the approach point on this end over here in the west. That leaves Ukraine only this path to choose from. And let's see what happens. So by securing the flanks, I said we can expect an assault up the center in a couple of days. Russia expands territory up here, moves into trench lines, and they push out over here as well to secure the breach more than likely. And boom, Russian assault straight into town after having secured the flanks, isolate the Novopoltavka. Take a look at this mechanized assault. We have a vehicle pushing up in the middle of town here, and Russia is at the moment fighting to regain this foothold in Novopoltavka. So modern warfare here on full display in this part of the battlefield. Suppress the enemy with artillery, lightning attack through enemy lines, secure positions behind the enemy and on the flanks, and then push for the main objective that is now weakened and isolated. The next stage is for Russia to actively support Novoolenivka and those motorcycle units, either by moving more troops up this way, or I suspect they will push up to take Novopoltavka and then move troops at speed along the highway here to link up with the forces up here that are more or less still behind enemy lines. I suspect that this part of the battlefield here is highly contested. Lots of Ukrainians, and Russia needs to come up this way and this way to threaten to surround and isolate these units. And if they decide to fall back, well, then you can link up with Novoolenivka. This is Blitzkrieg. Have a breach coming behind, threaten to encircle, force the enemy to withdraw, and then you can link up, and then you have secured ground. So if I've never been opposed to the use of motorcycles. I've made videos about this before where I've talked about that the lightning speed, the dispersed formations, has merit. And I mean, yes, it is a meme that they move from tanks to infantry fighting vehicles to turtle tanks to motorcycles to golf carts to donkeys. Absolutely. But I have never dismissed the motorcycles. I've made videos on how motorcycle tactics work and are useful in Ukraine. And here we have a perfect example of Russia utilizing motorcycles very effectively to affect a larger section of the front line. This was a 6-kilometer push, and this push here, let's see here, they moved from here to say up here. That's 4 kilometers, that's wrong. Hang on, I'm messing this up. What the hell? Clear all. Let's see here, because I measured it to be 6 kilometers the other day. Okay, yeah. So this was the push. Here we go. As you can see, 5.6 kilometers. This was the measurement I used the other day. And this push, sorry for messing that one up, is now affecting a section of the front line going from up here down here. 10 kilometers wide. And here's the push into Malinivka down here, as you can see. This initial push to secure the flank of this battlefield, of this front line, to disrupt supplies and logistics coming in this way. Then they made this push up on the right here, boom, to isolate the right flank, or to cut the right flank of Novopoltavka, and then eventually the main assault. So motorcycles used in the correct way, very effective. I don't know the exact amount of casualties the Russians took. I mean, if you catch them in the open with artillery or machine guns and what have you, I mean, obviously you want to be in an infantry fighting vehicle rather than a motorcycle. But you get the point. Right conditions, used correctly, they can have an effect. And as we can see, that is what happened here. Sorry for the confusion with the measurements there early on. Right, moving onward. Here we go, moving forward a bit. Pokrovsk. Things are happening at Pokrovsk. Unfortunately, we have this push the other day. Let's see here. As you can see, Russians killed within Pokrovsk. Most mappers acknowledge that Russia made a push here. That seems to suggest that Russia has some tactical advantages here in the Shevchenko area. Tactical advantages that has given them an operational advantage to launch an assault into Pokrovsk. Same thing over here around Solone and Novovasilivka. Going back a bit, you can see here, first of all, Uspinivka, pushing back Ukraine in Uspinivka, and then pushing Ukraine back in, well, this windbreak here primarily, since this is mostly open ground. So this is the windbreak Russia managed to secure the other day. And you can see they're pushing out, reaching a small bridge over here, and applying pressure to Novosibirsk, apparently crossing that bridge and even contesting the outskirts of Novosibirsk. They're pushing on into Novoalexandrivka as well. Interesting here, Ukrainian counterattack, pushing back in the area. Doesn't seem to have had that much of an effect yet, one should add, but still. And so yeah, this is an area where Ukraine had operational momentum for quite a few months, pushing in Russia back at Kotline, pushing them back in and around the Dachne. They came in on Shevchenko, came in on the flanks, as you can see here. The yellow is essentially where Ukraine was when they applied pressure to Shevchenko. They applied pressure in Peshane, came in this way north of, they came into Uspinivka and then north of this river. They pushed all the way into Solone and put a lot of pressure on the Russians. And with this river, all of these attack points, these 3 attack points, meant Russia can only come across the river at this dam. Now, Russia appears to have regained momentum in the area, pushing Ukraine back on the flanks at Shevchenko at Solona and Uspinivka, securing the dam and also a bridge right here. So now they can move logistics across the river here as well. So now they have one secure access point or logistical route, one sort of secured, it's kind of still close to enemy positions, and there is more bridges up here at Peshana that are a bit tricky to utilize for logistical purposes, but one secure location and one halfway decent logistical route to support troops in Vovkova and fighting at Kotlina and Udashna. So Russia has turned the tables on the Ukrainians for the moment here in the Vovkova area south of Pokrovsk. Furthermore, they're pushing here at Nadivka to Kotlyarivka. Over the last couple of days, you can see here, they begin with drone strikes, precision strikes, then artillery saturation on the town, and then an assault. Boom. What Russia is trying to do is reach the Solona River. Right here, I'll show you using this one. Right, the Solona River is what Russia is after. It's a defensive barrier that will help them hold territory, and if they can grab the territory south here of Pokrovsk, they can obviously position artillery pieces all over the place. They can utilize all the towns for as supply depots, as command centers, as bases of operations or what have you when you rotate in troops in and out of combat. Had they only and they need this area to deploy artillery so that they can attack all of these supply lines leading into Pokrovsk and to attack Pokrovsk itself. Had they only been satisfied with taking this territory, they could only fit so much artillery in the occupied areas to support an assault on these towns. They need to push west to be able to spread out their artillery and make it more difficult for Ukraine to hunt down the artillery in the area. And because they need artillery to attack these supply lines and to attack Pokrovsk and Myrnorod itself before you push in with troops. Further south still, you can see here, Bahatyr. I've highlighted this before. Russia keeps bombarding this town. I mean, Jesus, I'm back on the 27th of April here. You can see it is weeks of relentless artillery and airstrikes at this town. Because I figured this would be a tough nut to crack for Russia. This town could actually hold the line here a bit further south, and it appears I was correct in that assessment. Russia is hammering Bahatyr and haven't really pushed in yet. They have made some attempts. Let's see if we move over to the 3D map here to show you. Where is Bahatyr? Here we have some Russian pushes south of Bahatyr. Yeah, they've pushed into this corner. 3 buildings, as you can see here, according to ISW. But still, weeks of airstrikes and artillery barrages, rocket strikes at Bahatyr, and Russia has taken 3 buildings at the corner of this small town. This is a fortification. This is a big obstacle for the Russians, as shown by the amount of artillery aimed and the fact that they have only pushed in and secured 3 buildings so far after so many weeks of relentless artillery barrages aimed at Bahatyr. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have for you. Frontline update. Hope you found it interesting. I hope I'll see you in the next one. As always, go po marsh, Ukraine, and give them hell.